War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you as always from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Mark Tolley, and I am back, and joining me as always is my two co-hosts, Garrett and Will. Guys, how you guys been?
Doing well. Bright suns.
Yes.
How are we all?
Oh. Well, I want to first of all thank you guys for holding on the fort while I was on vacation, a much needed vacation. You guys did a great job, and thank you both for just holding down the fort.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have quite a bit to talk about. Mostly we're going to be talking about the two upcoming Disney Plus series, Andor and Bad Batch.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
It's such a great time to just be a star. I mean, I know that's kind of a cliche statement it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, but it's just so nice to have all these different series on their way, and then more behind that getting worked on, and more behind that getting talked about. So
yeah. Well, which one should we start with? Should we start with Bad Batch or we start with Andor?
My thought is we should start with Bad Batch. It's a little bit further out.
Yeah.
And then focus more on Andor because it's coming out this week.
It is Wednesday. 3-episode premiere.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yes. Oh, just so excited. Now, what did you guys think of the first season of Bad Batch?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, just it was such a cool group of characters to introduce right towards the end of the Clone Wars, and then to have a spin-off essentially come out of them. But to see them go through, I mean, it really just anything surrounding that Order 66 plot and how it affected everyone else and other people and other characters, and to see how they handled it and where they're going with their story. And I love the character of Omega, and it's kind of gut-wrenching to see the destruction of Camino. I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't like we were that attached to it, but still. Well, I guess we'd been attached to it for 20 years, so I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it was the home of the clones.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm excited for it because one, kind of like what Will was saying, it's a great to extend the Clone War. The thing I really appreciated about it was you get to see how everything gets executed, no pun intended, with from that clone perspective. Because I think the character that really ties everything back together is Echo. Echo is he's that one character that shows up in both series. Fairly predominantly, he was he was the clone, started going nutso during the Clone Wars, figured out what was going on. It was a corrupted control chip, and
I thought it was also cool just to see like how the Empire solidified everything. Showing that part of it, how they're able to basically take control of the galaxy like they did so seamlessly, and how everything just kind of fell in line. It's going to be interesting to see that change too, and the change from the clones into the
stormtroopers.
The stormtroopers. Yeah.
Well,
that's going to be.
Yeah, and I find it interesting to see, because when you're looking at Bad Batch, you're really looking at the formation of the Empire, or I should say not the formation, but the growth to its high point. Which isn't even there yet. You're seeing it happen, and that's ironic in comparison to Andor, which we'll get to a little bit. But dealing with there, you're starting to see the seeds of rebellion kind of seep in, and you're going to start to see that story. So after the height of the Empire. So it's cool that they kind of put these two shows Now, does Bad Batch, wasn't it supposed to start fairly soon, or has that got pushed back?
Yeah, I think it was.
It got pushed back to early 23.
Oh, it did. Oh, wow.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing is that, or maybe it's supposed to be later this year. I don't remember, but like I got the sense that it was being pushed out to at least January, just so that it wouldn't collide with anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like that they did that, to the sense that I don't want to have 2 Star Wars shows premiering at the same time, even if one is an animated show. I want one show a week, you know. Let's do Andor, let's get that out of the way, and after that, okay, Bad Batch for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And get that out of Mandalorian season 3, you know.
Bad Batch season 2 premieres January 4th, 2023.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean,
it isn't like every single week. There'll be some breaks in between, but
yeah,
still, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of hit the one of the news. Speaking of that, was the news that came out that once again it looks like the Rogue Squadron has been removed from the list of upcoming movies. Now, they didn't say that it had been totally scrapped. They just said that it had been removed. So that could mean anything, really. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, for me, I was with Rogue Squadron. I was anticipating kind of like Star Wars equivalent of Top Gun.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know. It feels like it's one of those things where it's like Disney's pumping the brakes on it and saying we're going to hold off because reasons. And this is the same studio that had no faith in Black Cauldron. It was actually probably one of their stronger original projects. So
I think my take on it is that it's a different world right now. Ever since Disney Plus, and these with the Mandalorian and with the Marvel limited series that have come out, I think Disney is just switching gears completely, and seeing whatever success, and not success that they've had, or non-success with. And I'm not talking about Star Wars here. I'm talking about Marvel, because Star Wars is a different animal, because they created the sequel trilogy. They had a few standalone films. They had 2 standalone films, one hugely successul and one not successful. And I think that they pulled the brakes back, and that's Star Wars. Now you take a look at Marvel. They've actually had, I think, have had greater success in their streaming services collectively than they have in their post-pandemic movie releases.
Yeah.
Spider-Man notwithstanding. Maybe Doctor Strange, but Black Widow was okay. Not that I'm a big Marvel fan. I enjoyed all the movies so far, but Shang-Chi, Eternals, what's the latest one? Even Thor,
Love and Thunder. Yeah.
They haven't gotten, and I enjoyed all of those movies, but they just haven't gotten the same thing. So I think that Disney is starting to see, and I'm guessing, and I don't know this for a fact, but Disney's starting to see that there is greater, there's greater chance for the greater ability to take chances on a streaming side than there is on the movie side. So unless they're looking at a movie script and a story concept that is rock solid, that every single person down the road, from the creatives to the suits, reads it and just thinks this is going to absolutely be the best thing ever.
Yeah, I
think they're going to be very careful. So
now, do you think this is just speculation, but do you think that it could also be that they saw it, they see, like you said, they see the success that the streaming services have had, that the limited series have had, and they said, okay, we like the story, but because we're having so much success with our series, let's see if we can retool this from a movie into a series.
Possibly.
That maybe that's what they're doing. They're looking at it's like, all right, let's see if we can make this, instead of just doing a movie, a theatrical release movie, let's try to make this a series.
I guess we'll have to wait till the next celebration to.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to say because when you're doing a series, let's just take the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, for example.
Yeah.
Amazon bought the rights for $250 million from the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien. They ended up putting at least $1 billion into the production, just the first season alone. And one of the things that they're running in, the more episodes you have to do, the more money you're putting out, and it's expensive. And right now, what people are seeing, at least from a critical, well, not from the critical, from the audience side of things, audiences are enjoying it as well as the critics are. And so that it might be one of those things where it's like it would probably better just do the film because it would save them some money. So of having about millions of dollars per episode, they can streamline it so long as they have good tight writing, a good special, whether they're practical effects, CG. I'm personally towards the practical effects because that's what worked for George Lucas, and he was working especially on the first film on a very, very tight budget.
Yeah,
they've got money to burn. Pump it into some really good practical effects, really decent writing, a darn good director. Give yourself a great film that you could put on streaming or in theater or both at hybrid release.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I honestly think my number one guess is that they are not happy with the story, or conflict with Patty Jenkins or whomever.
Yeah, is Patty still?
I don't know if she's still attached to it or not, but I thought she was.
Yeah,
no idea at this point.
Yeah, so, but you know what? It's like, that kind of stuff, I never get worried about that. I mean, my goodness, all the stuff that we've, and mind you, I've been someone who's been very happy with the Disney product of Star Wars. I mean, a lot of people, I know I might be alone in that sometimes, I feel like, but I go to the parks regularly and I see how many people are dressed up as Kylo Ren and Rey and First Order Stormtroopers, and I really don't. I believe that the that any kind of attitude that Disney failed with the sequel trilogy. Not that they're perfect. I didn't say that, but it just is overall parts of the film franchise. I don't think that at all, and I think that Disney is very much aware of that. However, they also can be aware of their missteps, and moving forward, they're going to be a little more careful. And when they've seen such a level of success with streaming, and again, not that each one has been as 100% successful. I mean, I think Mandalorian by far takes the cake, but Book of Boba Fett had there was some general interest in there. It brought Mandalorian back, so there was a lot of viewership with that. And what am I missing? Oh, and an Obi-Wan that broke a bunch of records. So it's that now you're taking prequel love back for the prequels. So I think they're starting to realize that that Star Wars is not just for one group of people. There's love for all of the stories and all of the eras, and they're talking about other eras, and that's why I think they dip their toe into things like High Republic and Knights of the Old Republic and things of that nature. So who knows where it's going to go. So, I don't worry about it. I figured, we'll get our announcements. It was like D23 this year, not that there was anything really Star Wars. There was a couple of things they announced, but, or some trailers that they showed, but a lot of people were complaining that they didn't really announce very much. And it's like, why do they have to? I mean,
they announced a ton of stuff.
I know. Well, I'm speaking specifically of the Parks panel, but even that, if you watch the Parks panel, they announced a ton of that stuff too. It's just that they announced it globally. So, everybody was like,
it's going to be a little bit more specific because what they're trying to do is at this point, they're trying to recoup the losses they had from those 2 years.
Exactly.
And to make those changes and make those additions, they are it cost them a lot to do that. and they're playing with at this point kind of a limited it, even though they still have tons to burn. I mean, biggest thing that I'm seeing for the Florida park is that they're bringing in the Tron coaster, which they've at Shanghai Disney for what 3-4 years.
Yeah, and I think some people have complained about that because it's not anything new. But they brought in Remy and they brought in Tron, and both of those are just redos. So there's no innovation on there. It's just rebuild and go. However, they just blue skied like 4 different things. Three new lands in the Magic Kingdom, a new thing in Animal Kingdom. I think it's fantastic. So but it's just not coming next year. Disney's always been a lot slower. Universal, their chief competitor has always been, with the exception of Harry Potter, which took a long time. They'll throw up a coaster in 2 years or in a year, but it's a coaster, and that's it's 90% just whipping around like you would at any theme park. That's not what Disney does. So it's never been their model.
At least the Universal on the East Coast is a lot better because more to it, you have more land to play with.
Yes.
The last time I was at Universal here in California was 4.5 years ago, and it was a great experience. I hadn't been since middle school, I think, and the only actual roller coaster that they had is the Fly Hippogriff, which was just
it's like a kids coaster.
Yeah.
I
mean, like even in the kids coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia is way more intense than that.
Right. Yeah. So it's just again different business model, and well, in that case, just they were a movie studio first there, so they're doing what they can with the land that they have. But well, anyway, this is not a theme park discussion. It
is not.
But we digress. Anyway,
no, it's okay.
Back to Bad Batch, just to wrap up a little bit on that. I'm sure we're going to hear more. I might, in terms of predictions, I'm sure we're going to get. Oh, by the way, I want to preface this: predictions are not expectations. Not in my house, anyway. Well, I can't speak for you two, but for me, my predictions are nothing more than just maybe this will happen. If it happens, okay, called it. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to go, that's interesting. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't, but I'm not going to get angry about it. So, the only prediction I have is I'm sure we're going to see a little more growth from. Looks like we've already seen it in the previews for Omega, and I'm certainly thinking we're going to see more of Omega's story and how Omega's connection with the Bad Batch happens, and then I'm very curious to see how they handle Crosshair.
Yes,
because he's good for them.
Yeah. So where is that going to go? But there was a little bit of hesitation with regards to Omega. So even Crosshair, maybe he has a little clone soul. So we'll see.
We'll see. I'm interested to see. There's a couple things. Will we see Boba? In this one? Will we see a young Boba? What other they weren't afraid to bring in characters from the Clone Wars. So will we see other Clone Wars characters in this, and how will they tie everything? How will they tie it together with the wider story?
Yeah. Will they bring Ahsoka in?
That'll be interesting.
And again, I don't need it. I mean, because let's face it, Ahsoka's getting her own series.
Yeah.
But based on the time frame, I've been trying to line this up. I guess some of this took place. I mean, the whole Clone Wars ending with Ahsoka and Rex crashing the ship, and then they kind of just took off. Yeah. And then at the same time, the Bad Batch is dealing with trying to figure out what's going on. So then later in the season of the Bad Batches, after the Rex and Ahsoka crash the ship, and they're off on their own somewhere, I guess. Yeah. Eventually, I guess they start off together, but we didn't see. There was Captain Rex in the Bad Batch by himself, so I'm sure we'll see him again. Maybe if there's a reason. If there's a reason for him to be in the story, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the name of Rhea Perlman's character? The Trandoshan.
I've got right here. Hold on a second.
I can't remember. He's looking it up. I thought I kind of like her. I kind of like.
Yeah, she was good.
Sid.
You know. Skid.
Sid.
Say it one more time.
Sid.
Oh, Sid. Right. So I think that we'll see. I mean, obviously, we've already gotten hints of Sid in the trailer, and who knows? Who knows who will pop back? I wonder, maybe Fennec Shan, maybe who knows? Oh,
Cad Bane.
Cad Bane, we could see.
Yeah. Could we see a young Mando? Maybe we'll see.
Maybe.
That would be one. That would be a hard one to do because he'd be very young at this point.
Again, I would wait until
during the Mandalorian Wars.
Yeah.
And so, like, and he was rescued by his clan. So, like, if he did show, he'd still be a little kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before we move on to Andor, there is another series that got a trailer. I want to see if you guys saw it. That is Tales of the Jedi.
Yes.
I did.
Just the idea, the concept of it is just. Oh, I'm so excited for this one.
No, it is. It's very exciting. It's a cool. Now, the only thing is that it's only 2 stories told in a short format, right? So I'm assuming it's like several episodes for each story. That'll be just kind of short.
Yeah, kind of harkening back to the original Clone Wars.
Yeah, the Clone Wars.
Sorry,
Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars. Take
which, to be politely honest with you, I did not care for that. For personally, I just didn't like the animation style in it. It just wasn't for me. But that's just me. I know a lot of people have a soft spot in their heart for that series, but I just never got into it. I'll just say that.
I mean, for me, it was. I'm at the time I was kind of thought it was interesting. It was the first kind of high end animation we had before, other than droids and Ewoks.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed it for what it was, but I didn't really take it very seriously. I also kind of was a bit of a head scratcher watching Mace Windu take out an entire battalion of battle droids, like running past them. I thought, really, he could have used those moves in Geonosis and probably would have gotten out on his own. So that was.
There are some references in the Clone Wars series in the Sky animation, reference the 2D miniseries. They're few and far between, but there are some references that go back. Some of them are like planetary name stuff like that. Others like I can't remember which one it was or which volume it was. But like all the warfare on Dak. Kit Fisto, and they're all underwater and thing. That was a reference back to the music.
And they also, they kind of hinted that one of the reasons why Grievous had that cough was because of Mace Windu in the Clone Wars series. Clone Wars series that he crushed his heart, which gave him the permanent cough that he always had.
I appreciated that it literally ended right at the opening scene of.
Yes. Yeah.
I appreciated for me that kind of storytelling.
For me, it was more of an aesthetic thing. I just didn't care for the animation. Yeah. That was my biggest thing for it. And people say, like, well, it was the same guy who did
Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls,
Samurai Jack,
Jack. And again, I didn't really care for that style, those shows either. So yeah.
Well, back to Tales of the Jedi. So we're dealing with 2 stories, right? One about Qui-Gon, one about Count Dooku, and one about Ahsoka. Kind of like semi-origin stories, sort of.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's going
to be interesting to see.
And they had somebody said, I read that the young Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is being voiced by Liam Neeson, but young Qui-Gon is being voiced by his son.
Ooh.
His adult son, who is Richardson, his last name, the one I guess that he had with Natalie. So that's cool. It'll be interesting.
That is very cool. Very cool
to hear the similarity. But so for that, I'm just excited to just see how that unfolds and just kind of fill in the gaps, fill in the bios of those characters a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So be exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that leads us to finally the show that's coming up this Wednesday, Andor. Yep. I don't think I've been this excited about a Star Wars show since Mandalorian, since I first saw the trailer for The Mandalorian. And I think I'm even more excited for this show than I was Mandalorian.
Wow.
Because I don't know. It's hard to explain. Maybe it's because I had virtually no expectations going into Mandalorian. As far as what to expect. Yeah, I was excited about it, but for some reason, it's just something about this, the trailers that we've seen, what we've heard about it. I am just so amped about this show.
Okay. Well, it's certainly is setting. It's always interesting because Disney has its work cut out for them with this type of a show. I mean, you can do a show called Obi-Wan Kenobi and put Ewan McGregor on there, and you have just sold it on, millions of people who grew up with the prequels, right? You can do a show called Boba Fett, and you can sell it. That could be sold on, millions of adults like our age, and even if we haven't had any real continued interest in Star Wars, we all have heard and remember Boba Fett, and we think, oh, that's an interesting character. Let's see what they do with it. But Andor is tricky because, yes, we all, people have heard of the story Rogue One, but even when Rogue One came out, we've talked about this in previous episodes, Rogue One, people thought it was just the next episode of the sequel trilogy. So they walked in and see, where's Rey? Where's Finn? Where's Poe? Who are these people? They didn't realize it until they watched it a bit and realized that, oh, wait, this is taking place. They're talking about the Death Star. They're talking about, stuff like that. So this is yet another prequel. But Andor was, unless you were really into it, you don't know who that name is. Not a lot of people can name Cassian Andor as a character from Star Wars. I can, you can. Yeah. But I'm talking about the mass public. So but it's nice. They're going to take a risk with it. But yeah, I agree with you. The trailers and the way they framed it, and the way they're filming it, and the way they're shooting it, and the lighting, and the way the characters are behaving, it is shaping up to be a very different, but no less interesting and cool-looking Star Wars experience.
I'm liking it simply for the sheer fact that it's much more of a spice than in anything. Yeah, you've got this travel, and there's probably references to Jedi or some other elements that we've already seen. But the thing I'm most excited for is the fact that we get a legit spy story.
Yes,
he's rogue operative for the Rebel Alliance because he's got street cred. He's 5 years, living the toughest life, figuring out how to survive. This guy knows what he's doing. And so to see what he was like years leading up to the event of Rogue One, where where he's already jaded kind of going into this, but to see jaded he gets by the Rogue One happens, that's going to be the cool part.
Yeah. He's been in this fight since 6 years old, so then we get to see what exactly happened when he was 6. But but no, I agree with you. The spy element. I'm actually excited about the political intrigue.
Oh yeah, me too.
So much of this, if you watch the deleted scenes from Episode 3, the Revenge of the Sith, you will actually see a lot of the. Well, actually, I mean, it'd be very interesting to watch this first, and particularly the scenes with Mon Mothma, and to see how much of it they stuck with from the deleted scenes of Episode 3. I mean, I don't know if people realize that the actress who's playing Mon Mothma was in Revenge of the Sith, but all of her scenes were cut except for maybe one pass by. I mean, all of them were cut, no lines, and they brought her back not only for Rogue One, same actress, but they brought her back again for Clone Wars, or I think Rebels, rather, excuse me. And then now they're bringing her back again for Andor. So I'm excited to see where that is. Like, you know, what's the line she said in the... I went through the trailer and teaser again today just to refresh my memory. And they said, when she's like, you know, if they think I'm a nuisance, maybe they won't pay attention to me. They won't realize what I'm really up to. You know, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this woman going to be doing? I mean, we know what she's doing, but you know, it's
now, do you think that there could be the chance that, much like people complained with Boba Fett, that
people complaining, I'm going to say firm affirmative. Yes, people will.
Well, I mean,
very reasonable. I think it's going to happen. Just an educated guess.
Yeah. But that the chance that we could see a situation like we had with, you know, people complain with Boba Fett, where he gets kind of overshadowed by other characters in the show.
I'm really hoping not, because we saw some of that a little bit with Boba Fett. We saw some a little bit with Owen, where Lucas was not on the title character as much as it could have been. But from what I've seen in the trailers, where they're showing him prominently, I think Lucasfilm has seen that. They're correcting that, making sure that that's not an issue, because you know. What's the point of title character if you're not going to focus?
Yeah,
I agree. I think we've seen quite a bit of Andor. So now I think that we're going to see the character. I don't think we'll necessarily see. You know, I don't think it's going to be played by at least two roles. At least Diego will play the adult version, and there's a kid in there. I'm pretty sure. So, So that's my take on that. But I do. Some of the reviews have already come in, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. It's I think what I've found is, you know, although it might just be the people that I tend to follow on social media, who tend to be more positive, they seem to be enjoying it. But they said it's very adult. That it's like not just adult in, you know, theme and tone, but, you know, there's some swear words, there's some, you know, adult situations. So it's going to be an adult version of Star Wars, like we haven't seen as of yet. So what that translates to after 12 episodes, I don't know.
Yeah. Now now we can, I think, let's kind of transition to maybe, I don't know if I want to say what we don't want to see, but I mean, maybe that's the best way to talk about it, of things like, even if I'm trying to put into words what I'm trying to say. So, like, for me personally, I don't want to see Vader. As much as I love Vader, I don't think this is the show for Vader to show up in.
Okay.
I think Vader at this point, maybe mention him, even if it's in an offhand way, but at this point, I think Vader still needs to be the boogeyman. He still needs to be that thing that's kind of in the background that people, you know, talk about. That's kind of like, you know, I think not seeing him at this point, or even just mentioning him in whispers, makes him even more terrifying at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think he needs to show up in the show. That's what it is. I mean, you know, and I think if he does, that takes that. For me personally, that could take away from the show, because then you're focusing on Vader. You know, you're focusing on, oh my gosh, Vader's here, and you know, yeah, this isn't Vader's show.
Okay.
I mean, that's just me personally. I don't know what you guys think, but
No, I completely agree with you on that one, because I think having Vader in the show, he's such a dominant presence throughout the franchise that like the brief scenes of him in Rogue One, great, those are good, because they show that they showed that as much as just Krennic was a threat, there was someone who could cow him very easily.
Yeah,
and we got to see a version of Vader hunt for the Death Star plans in a light that we hadn't seen before, and that worked for them.
And I think it also worked for him showing up in Obi-Wan.
Right, exactly. Because I mean, that was a personal vendetta. This is a situation in which we're 5 years out the event of A New Hope, and just prior to that, Rogue One. And there's no need for him to be there, because why would he want to hunt down just some spy?
Yeah, the only way I could see him possibly showing up is at the very end, where there's a scene of him meeting with Krennic, talking about Project Stardust. Talking about the Death Star.
I really don't think he's not the focus. He won't be the focus.
Yeah.
If anything, he'll be in a reference, as you said, or a very brief flyby, or something like that. And whatever it is, I seriously doubt it will take up more than a few seconds of screen time.
Yeah. Now, what about the Emperor? I mean,
I would imagine. I mean, we've already seen scenes in the Senate, so it's certainly possible. We've already seen Ian McDiarmid, don the makeup for the end of Obi-Wan. I see no reason why he couldn't have just kept it on for a few more lines.
Yeah.
And do something like that. Having said it, does it have to? No. Could very well have his major domo, one of those, Masamita guy or whoever, could be the person doing all the talking in the Senate. And he just kind of goes to his ivory, or I should say black tower, and just rule from on high. So we don't have to see him, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a pinch of him, or Bail Organa for that matter.
Yeah,
that's another one.
Showing up because he being senator, it would make total sense for Jimmy Smith to show up.
Yeah. And if they ask him, he'll do it, because he's been jumping in for any time. You want me to play? Oh, sure. I'm surprised he didn't do the voice for Bad Batch or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. So
yeah. I think we're all very. I think the consensus is we're all very excited for this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's I'm cautiously optimistic. I have no reason not to be. Diego Luna did such a bang up job. Mm-hmm. They got a great cast all the way around. Even the people that, what's his name, Skarsgård. I'm so happy to have him in the Star Wars universe. I wanted him in there since since he was in Pirates. I remember when he played, what's his name, Bootstrap Bill. I'm like, oh, this guy belongs to Star Wars.
Yes.
I just want him there so bad. So now we have him, and that's great.
And the return of what's his name?
Saw Gerrera.
A
little more of him than we got in Rogue One. And I think it's before he's not quite the man he used to be, but I don't think he's been quite piecemealed as much as he is in Rogue One.
No. Which I think it's going to be interesting to see if we see that story kind of play out a little bit, of how he becomes what we see in Rogue One.
Now, I will say one hope, again, not expectation, just a minor little tiny back of my mind hope that we see a bit of at some point, even if it's just in a glorified cameo, although I could understand if it doesn't happen, and I forgive it. But I would so love to see Chirrut and Baze.
Yeah.
Even just running in the background, if somehow he ends up back on Jeddah for something, because it looked like Diego's character, like Andor, was familiar with Jeddah, was familiar with who was there and what people were doing. So he could have had a run in a cameo setting. I don't think they'll go on an adventure together. But, that's definitely, a long shot hope that I hope to be able to see. If not in this season, next season. Now, we've been It's been confirmed that we will not be seeing K2SO this season. Yeah,
that's what I went to see. I went to see K2.
I believe it makes sense. You know, they brought him out like at 2 celebrations ago. They brought him out on stage with Diego. So obviously I'm pretty sure he's going to be in the story. But I think it's going to be season 2. Yeah. I do believe that they've already kind of announced that. So maybe that's part of the story, you know, and then maybe they have to establish Diego's character a little more in this season, and then start to, you know, because remember it's going to end in the second season pretty much right on Rogue One. Like he's going to be. Yeah. I've been told, you know, I don't know how people know this, but they're saying that it's going to end on the scene we meet him for the first time. So I don't know how true that is, but
yeah. Well, what about you, Garrett? What are some of your thoughts? You've been kind of quiet.
Sorry,
No, it's and I'm content to let you guys talk, and before I can say anything, you guys usually have said what it is I'm thinking.
Sorry. Sorry.
Great minds think alike.
I've been last month. I've been spending my time as a reporter, so I get to be a fly on the wall usually. No one asked my opinion. I love. I'm really excited for this. Like, I loved Rogue One. I love the concept behind it. I'm always a big fan of the spy genre. The fact that they're finally throwing it into Star Wars on a more consistent basis is great. And so I'm liking this because, like, even though it's there, the way I kind of see Cassian-Andor is I kind of see him as kind of like a young Jack Ryan, only instead of being like, you know, Ivy League, he's from the streets. You know, he's definitely that spy that he's pulled into being a spy without really wanting to be, but he's got it. And on top of that, he's got the other skill sets needed to accomplish whatever the missions are, whether it's a survival mission, intelligence gathering, maybe taking out an asset, target. He's got that capability and he's got mindset because of how he grew up, and we're going to see those elements. I mean, his eagerness to follow the directives in Rogue One to kill Jyn Erso's dad, and being willing to do so until she showed up on the landing platform. You know, like, he was ready to pull the trigger. He was wrestling with it. He was ready to do the job. And I'm eager to see how he gets point A at the beginning of the series to point B at the start of one, as well as those things that he has to wrestle with. The job he does, a cost. You know, whether it's lying to someone that he's gained the trust on, whether it's killing someone that he's gained the trust of, or killing someone close to someone that trusts him. Whether it's just whatever the task is, it's going to be interesting to see how he wrestles with those moral questions and the ambiguity that he has to deal with in that role. And it's going to be fun. And like you guys said, he's a good actor. He's in some really interesting stuff. And I like him. I think he fits the role well. And it's going to be really cool to see how he takes it, how he jumps into the role and just, you know, does what he's going to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was just looking here at some of the other shows that are in development or coming up. We have quite a bit of Star Wars coming up. We have, of course, Andor. We already mentioned Tales of the Jedi and Bad Batch, Mandalorian Season 3, Young Jedi Adventures. Have you guys heard about this one?
I don't know much about it though.
Yeah, it's an animated TV series in spring of 2023. A new season, a new volume of Visions, Star Wars Visions.
Mm-hmm. I like Visions. I'm usually an animated, but I liked Visions. I like the different styles.
Yeah.
And go back through it and try to find out and identify the different actors that they brought in as voiceover.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, Ahsoka coming out with the TV show, and they've apparently they've cast Ezra.
Yes. So literally, okay. I have one expectation. I will say this. I already told you. These are not expectations. I have one expectation. I want Freddie Prinze as a
yes, Freddie Prinze as Kanan. Yes,
as Kanan, but he's dead. But bring him back as a flashback, as a ghost. I don't care what it is. But
Caleb Doom. We need Caleb Doom.
You literally have the entire cast of the Ghost or of the Rebels in this show. It should be called Rebels plus Ahsoka.
Rebels plus Ahsoka. Skeleton Crew.
Sounds like a great name for a band.
Rebels plus Ahsoka.
But also Skeleton Crew.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
because I don't know much about that show, and I'm just like, just the premise of it is, it seems, I don't know.
Yeah. Acolyte, the Acolyte TV show, Lando. Then we got, Taika Waititi's movie is supposedly still in development. The Book of Boba Fett 2.
A second season of Boba Fett?
It's status unknown is what it has. There's also a status unknown for the Kevin Feige movie. There's a J.J. Dillard and Matt Owens movie possibly coming out. Rangers of the New Republic is still up in the air. The Rian Johnson trilogy is still up in the air. And the Bitoff and Weiss movie is still up and has been canceled, is what this says.
Yeah.
Anything and everything, until you start seeing the, and I'm not being cynical here. I'm just being cautious.
Yeah.
Until you start seeing the characters show up on Entertainment Weekly covers, you're not 100%. And hey, you can't even say that because look what happened to that Batgirl movie.
True.
Don't get me started on that one.
Oh my goodness.
But it looks like at least everything up through the Acolyte is pretty much confirmed because we've got casting for Acolyte, we've got casting for Skeleton Crew. Ahsoka's already done. It's in the pipe. So pretty much all of everything up to that point has been, everything past that is either in development or up in the air.
Right.
Obviously Rangers in the Republic, which was one that I'm personally kind of disappointed that it possibly could be canceled because that looked like a really cool idea.
I'd still be hopeful.
Yeah. I think a lot of that had to do with the firing of Gina Carrara, whatever her name was, Gina.
Yeah.
Because she was supposed to be the lead.
She was going to be the lead on that. So to do that show without that core character, but don't think for a minute that they're not going to try to replace that character in some capacity, in some way. And then if we get somebody who's equally strong,
Pardon? She was a fan favorite from Mandalorian, and it would behoove them as producer to bring her back on.
Yeah, you may be right, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think so. But who knows? Anything can happen. Always in motion is the future, right? So
I think there would have to be a lot of, for that to happen on both sides, there would have to be a lot of
suppressing of ego.
That, and both sides would have to. There have to be a lot of mea culpas going on both sides. I think both sides would have to come together and say we both made mistakes, and I don't know if either side is willing to do that.
Right. Yeah,
whether it be Disney or a Gina.
So I think more realistically, and again, this is no basis in facts here, just speculation.
Yeah.
But realistically, I think that they have to throw all these other things out there, get them out, see what they have, see who the new breakout star is, and see if there's somebody that can be placed into that role, whatever that role is going to be.
Yeah.
But as I said, who knows?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I think this is a good a time as ever to kind of wrap things up here. Will, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you at?
Okay, you can find me at home on YouTube with my Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show channel. New episodes drop on Sundays and Wednesdays, although I am experimenting with and occasionally uploading some new YouTube shorts that come out not every day, but every couple of days. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Darth Tuba, Darth Tuba's unboxing page on Facebook, and you can email me at darthtuba77@gmail.com.
All right. Garrett, what about you?
Well, you guys can find on Instagram and Twitter at GKJ_publishing. You can also find me on YouTube at GKJ Publishing. I actually have a new season of my show out on YouTube. Season 5 launched on October 1st. It's good. It's going to be great. I've got a ton of author interviews lined up. In fact, I just recorded the interview for my 200th episode this afternoon. I'm super excited. And then that's pretty much.
All right. As for us right here, you can check us out each and every week live here on Facebook and now YouTube. Hopefully this works. We're trying something new, trying to do a double simulcast to both Facebook Live and YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Just search for War of the Stars. You can email us at warofthestars@gmail.com. That is also our Twitter handle. Check out our Facebook page. If you're not able to watch us live, as I said before, you can also check us out on YouTube. Just check out War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Or you can find us wherever you get your podcast at. Again, just search War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Check out our Instagram page. Again, War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Also, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/War of the Stars, or check out our merch shop. Link will be in the description on our YouTube page and all our social media. Get the cool War of the Stars merch. And that will do it for this week. Next week, we'll start our review of Andor. So join us then. And remember, this is my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Till the spire, everyone.